I'm Akeisha Dumas, one of the other co-chairs.
Good evening, Andrew Calick.
Hey everyone, I'm Adnan Hassan.
Good evening, I'm Yolanda Salguero.
Patrick Nolan.
We just want to take a moment to welcome everyone here this evening. We say it at each of our meetings, at least we try to, that this is a space where we welcome, respect, and appreciate all people, all perspectives. I just want to say that I especially appreciate whoever picked or cooked the food tonight, because it's really good. And just welcome to the PSET meeting, everybody.
Okay, we are going to have some subcommittee reports. Just a couple of things to do. Just to mention, we did have our first PSET retreat, which is one of the only times that we do private private sessions with PSET. You know, we really want to make sure that this is a transparent group, that all decisions and activities are in the public. But this past Monday we had a retreat, which we find necessary just to turn internally and work on our team building and things of that nature, and that was a very successful meeting, and we hope to continue to do those regularly. Another piece of this is that we have our subcommittees, which are up and running, and just for everybody's information, we have 4 subcommittees: a mental health subcommittee, one on race, ethnicity, and other, a settlement agreement and policy subcommittee, and then a youth subcommittee. Each of these has chosen a chair. And so we're going to hear some report backs on them. We've each had at least one meeting with one subcommittee that's just preparing to have its first meeting in the future. So I'll ask the chairs to just go down the list on what we have from the agenda and just do a brief overview of what you guys are working on, what kind of information you guys have already discussed, and anything else that would be pertinent. Starting with our mental health subcommittee.
The Mental Health Subcommittee has met twice, once via phone, and our co-chairs are Robert Dye and myself, Patrick Nolan. We have decided on a location for our meetings and are working on other roster members in the subcommittee. Our location will be at 805 Southeast 122nd at the Multnomah County Midland Library. Our next meeting is from 5:30 to 7:30 on March 27th.
Perfect. And we'll make sure to get all that information up on our Twitter, social media, and other things like that, and our website, so that folks can make sure to attend. Great. Let's hear from the Race, Ethnicity, and Other Subcommittee. Sam, one of our members, is not in today, so we're going to have Michelle briefly talk about that.
Yep. We have met just once, and as you said, Sam Sachs is the chair of the Race, Ethnicity Subcommittee. We decided to meet once a month on the same day as the steering committee meeting, so we will meet at 4 o'clock, I believe, just before the steering committee starts at 5:30. We went around and we identified different focus audiences that each of us on the subcommittee will intend to reach out to do outreach to. And that ranged from schools to universities to other organizations, local organizations that exist in the city. And so each of us is targeting, to a degree, different organizations and different organizations and institutions that we're going to reach out to. And we'll do that for the next month or so. And we're also churning and trying to identify groups and organizations that already exist in the community that are doing this work that we can partner with as we do our work.
Perfect. Thank you. We'll next hear from our Settlement Agreement and Policy Subcommittee.
Yeah, so we had our first meeting earlier in February. Basically, the gist of it was our strategies and techniques on how we're going to assess compliance of the settlement agreement was one of the things, and also how we are going to go about reviewing policies as they come up for review, or certain directives. Yeah, we're basically, you know, it's a big issue, so, or a large issue, and so we wanted to focus our scope with the limited resources that we do have as as a smaller subcommittee. So one of the things we wanted to do really was take the issue chunk by chunk, and we will continue to look at our strategies and techniques. We plan on meeting on the second Wednesday of every month. So the location will be at the PSEP office, and the address we'll have up on the website.
Perfect. And finally, from our youth subcommittee?
We don't have a official chair yet, and we will have our first meeting on March 10th. And the youth subcommittee currently consists of Britt, Yolanda, and myself. And at least just one goal I have is hopefully to reach out to Portland Public Schools and see what we can do with the school district in Portland. And if anyone else has anything to comment about the youth community. Okay.
We'll
Great.
be meeting on March 10th, so we'll be making more, or finalizing more information at that point.
Perfect. Thank you guys all for the subcommittee reports, and those will be happening at each meeting. So look forward to those. Our next piece of the agenda is our racial equity plan. We're going to have a couple presentations from the Office of Equity and Human Rights. The director, Markeisha Smith, and also PPB's Equity and Diversity Officer, Elle Weatherroy, will both be presenting two very important reports that we're excited to look into. And those are, again, like I said, quarterly reports, so we'll hear from their presentations, then we'll take questions from PSEP, and then finally open it up for public comment. So I welcome both of them to the stage right now, and I think some of us are going to move around so that we can enjoy this presentation as well. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Hello, good evening.
How you doing?
Well, how are you?
All right.
All right, good evening, everybody, again. How are we feeling?
Good.
Good? All right. So I am the new director for the Office of Equity and Human Rights. Markeisha Smith is my name, as you can see here. And it is a privilege to be with you this evening. I have been in the office now this is the beginning of week 3. So this is all very new, trying to catch up on all the great work that has been happening prior to me coming. And to really just stand here before you and give you an introduction to myself and what I think will continue to be a healthy, productive relationship between our office and PSEP. And we're excited to have Judith and Claudia, who are doing work in our office to make that happen, and partnering with Elle and her work with police. And so this is awesome, right? I'm just privileged to be in this space. So that's me. And there's more to me, but I won't bore you with that because we only got like a few minutes. So this has been and will continue to be, and I will say, I think we can also think about what are other ways that this relationship might look, but this is where we are right now. And so first, one of our priorities is to really support Elle, right, as the equity manager, and to re-envision what that looks like. And we had a very productive conversation actually with equity managers and some other equity practitioners this afternoon. And they brought I have 3 pages of notes about the ways in which we can continue to build on the relationship that is currently existing, and ways that we can think about it differently. Because one of the things that's going to be important is that we empower our equity managers to do their work within their bureaus, but they also feel like there's a support, right? And that's where our office comes in. And what does that look like as we're thinking about the different ways in which this work manifests itself? And not every bureau is the same. And so that's the other thing that we have to be mindful of. And so it's kind of thinking about what our priorities are and chunking that out. So like I said, 3 pages of notes, got to make sense of it all. The other piece is for us to support the overall racial equity plan implementation. And so bureaus have equity plans. One of the things that came up this afternoon actually was around accountability as it relates to those plans. And so I think that's a space where our office can really think differently. So how do we support Elle in her implementation, right, of what that plan looks like within her bureau? And how does that come back to us, and how are we giving feedback and course correct? What are some things? They should be living documents. And so that's the one thing that I think is really important to think about with the racial equity plan. It's not this static document where we've done it and that's it, right? It sits on a shelf. It should be something that's living and breathing, so that we're not afraid to pick it up and think about how can we do things differently? What are some things that are really working well that we can continue to do, and that we get input and feedback about what that looks like. And that's part of what folks here can offer, I think, in a way to support us. And here are a couple other things, just providing consultation and technical assistance. So we have folks that are very skilled in our office around professional learning and in a variety of different ways, and have been doing that, and I think we'll continue to do that. We offer some stuff within the city right now. I think there are often, these requests to do things outside of just what happens internally. And so thinking about how our office can support those professional learning opportunities for folks that want it. And I think that's another way to really build some momentum around what will be hopefully our vision for this work. That's the other thing. We're working on strategic plans, so TBD, there is more to come on that. And then finally here, aligning with citywide equity change efforts. I'll just say this, I think that, and coming from the state, so I worked at Oregon Department of Education for the last almost 6 years, and looking at things from a state perspective was very interesting for me, because a lot of what we would talk about with equity would be in words, and we would be really nice about putting things in documents and making them look, very fancy, very pretty, right? They were saying all the right things, but we weren't always really living into that, right? So we weren't doing what those documents promised that we would do, and that didn't sit well with me. And I worked a lot with community organizations who were coming to the table, who had been invited to have a strong voice to offer recommendations to us, and that was one of the things that they were often saying, right? We've got these big efforts that are happening. How are we really keeping an eye on what they're doing, and can we measure the ways in which they've been successful, and if they haven't been, how can we have an honest and open conversation about that? And so I think the same is true. Like, we have citywide equity efforts that are happening, and I think folks are committed to that, but it's also really important that we live that. And that's a different level, right? It's one thing to have something on paper, it's another to actually put that into action, and that's hard, right? It's easier to say something sometimes than it is to do it. And this isn't easy work. And so I want to really be a partner in what that can look like, not just for our office, but across the city. So ongoing engagement, we will be in this space, as we said, quarterly, I believe is how we come and sort of share a report. Judith has been doing an awesome job of filling in as kind of the program manager for this work. And that's something that we can talk about at a later date as we begin to sort of recruit for what that position looks like permanently. I think that's going to be important. The other piece is that we want to hear from you, right, as community, as members of this PCEP group. I think that's important that we get feedback around what it is that we're doing, how we're engaging. Could something about that be different? And that we're committed to this. And for me, this is all new learning, this is all exciting. But I also want to make sure that we're being held accountable for the ways in which we engage, right? So being here is important, right? Sharing what it is that we're doing as an office is really important, and we want to be transparent about that. So I think that's part of our ongoing engagement, right? And we have some of that written kind of into the settlement that we are part of that. So we want to continue to function in that way. And so here I think we just talked about centering this racial equity piece, kind of going back to the plans, right, and what that looks like as Elle is working on implementation in her bureau, how we're supporting that, and how you all can continue to give feedback on that. Again, not a closed document. Those are things that I think we want to continue to have evolve, and your partnership in that is going to be critical. Right? So that's it, I think. I had a really little piece. I feel like, was there something else? That was it? That was it? Yeah, and there might be questions now, questions after for me? After? Okay. I will follow protocol. It is after.
What is L? Who is L?
This is Elle.
Okay.
And Elle will introduce herself. Okay.
You're welcome. Good evening, everyone.
Hello.
I want to thank you guys for making that shift, just so that we could share some information with you all. Again, my name's Elle Weatheroy. I am the Equity